Welcome back to another episode of the Rondell Lane Podcast, and today we have a special guest, Sage Battle, and I thought that was a pseudo name because you're a fighter.
Yeah.
Battle.
Yeah. It works way too well.
Yeah, it does.
And then like also the symbolism behind everything and the contrast that name has, like with Sage being kind of like, the pacifistic, element of being peace-wise, introspective, and then Battle is like,
Yeah.
I
don't want to just label you as a fighter.
Mm-mm.
What else are you into?
I think there's three main things that I try to get across under the umbrella of being like a creative but also a martial artist.
Mm-hmm.
One, I started with photography. I think that was, if we're going in like chronological order, when I was like 13 to 16 when I focused on social media era. So like growing up, there was Instagram and then small businesses trying to promote, and then I'd reach out to small Black-owned businesses that would, either be doing like fashion or like kind of like anime merch and trying to collaborate with them. So that's where the entrepreneurship bug kind of got embedded, because I was like, how can I help it? How can I also do this sustainably and creative? Like, there's no real playbook for this kind of stuff.
Right. Absolutely.
And so photography, and then I traveled a lot. I think I'm definitely in my identity, I uphold like a lot of like global citizenry. Like I've lived in the U.S., quite a few states. So like, Virginia, North Carolina. I was born in North Carolina, mainly raised. Virginia, California, New York City. And then I moved to England by myself when I was 16. And so graduated from high school in England there. Mm-hmm. And then went to South Africa for college. And so I was there for about 5 years. And so I came back to the U.S., I guess, formally last year, and then came back to North Carolina properly in April of last year. So definitely like photography and the travel element of it helped with kind of like getting into the documentive space, because I was studying anthropology. I'm formally, like trained as an anthropologist. That's what my degrees are in, religious studies and anthropology. And what was coming out of that, because of course I graduated in, like, my first degree was in 2020, the pandemic, in a foreign country. So I'm like, how do we work through this? And then, the film and anthropology internships that like I had been working on is like, okay, document your everyday process. And so photography became like, I began to explore what that meant in the sense of like documenting myself in the world, and then going along this journey of like, who am I? Because that's the biggest thing in anthropology right now. It's focusing on the producer as well as, the people that are being observed, like in ethnographic sense. And so that, and trying to focus on art broadly. And so photography, art, and then it bridged into more of a, how do I explore like my niches and interests. And so when I came back, I was doing like a lot of work in like live music, and so that helped me get acclimated into the space really. Going to like my friends that were musicians, or I'd go to like downtown bars, or I'd like just do photos for someone, and then I'd learn about the small pockets. So like either the Poor House downtown Raleigh, or Cat's Cradle back room. And so that was kind of my vehicle for being able to navigate the world. So photography has been a huge thing. And then later last year, I started to focus on martial arts, because that's when I decided to fuse everything, because martial arts is kind of that common underlying thread that's kind of allowed me to have something to trace my, like development throughout my life, because it's been kind of cosmopolitan. And I think that's kind of cool. So definitely photography. Martial arts, I started when I was 12. I started Taekwondo when I was 12. Taekwondo, I competed. I was on the sparring team, definitely from when I was like, I'd say 14 to 15, probably, I think was more seriously. World Taekwondo Federation stuff, or the Cookie-Wan Cup, or Capital Open, that'd be in like, Virginia. So more regional things. And then at that time I went to, when I was in boarding school in England, it was very interesting because the popular federation, World Taekwondo Federation, it was more ITF, so it was a different federation, so I couldn't grade. So I was stuck at the degree before black belt for like 10 years. And so that took like a lot of mental grit to kind of try to navigate what kind of relationship I had with, Taekwondo as a martial art and as a sport, because I was learning different things. It's different techniques. Like the forms look different. It's still Taekwondo, but it's different. And then when I went to South Africa, I was on the university team for Taekwondo, and so I was still there, and you had to be there for a year. And then as soon as that proper turnover happened, the pandemic hit because Southern Hemisphere. Academic year starts, or at least in South Africa, starts in like February.
Okay.
And so February had hit, March rolls around, global shutdown. And so I was just kind of like, in the studio space I was in, just like, just trying to hunker it out like everybody else. And
how was it over there? From what like what we experienced in America, do you think it was better over there, the lockdown, or?
It's definitely different. So my siblings were in New York City at the time, and so and then they went down to North Carolina when like things had opened up. In South Africa, we had a hardcore lockdown. So we had like 5 levels. The highest level, you could only leave your house to go to the doctor or grocery store and have some sort of proof for it. What I experienced, it wasn't that, intense because I was still in the university space. So I could like walk to the grocery store, this type of thing, but there was no loitering. That was not encouraged. You couldn't even go for a jog. Like they were like, no, like no loitering. And then also like no delivery food or anything. So it's like you're going.
Wow. That actually like increased over here during that time.
Yeah, I think so. From what I'd heard, and so like DoorDash or no contact delivery. Like I saw like a lot of that increase in like New York and North Carolina and stuff.
Just leave food on your front step.
Yeah, and until about the middle of the year, things were pretty like stern until then. And with South Africa particularly, it's a beautiful country, but it does have it's definitely has one of the largest Gini coefficients in regards to inequality in the whole world. So in terms of access to healthcare, in terms of access to basic, like food and like supplies and shelter, it's very disproportionate. And with South Africa being 80% Black African, and the mass majority of wealth is like amongst the white population that has still been able to have a lot of control over the land and farms, and being able to like produce like produce, food, very essential for being able to continue to live on. It definitely showed the weak points in the developmental systems. And so if it was a matter of you can't, and curfews, of course, when things started to open up. And so especially in the townships where you have multi-generational households, where people's lives are designed on kind of being outside of the household for the vast majority of the day, that's very difficult, having a multi-generational household in a township, or if you're in a space that's like an informal settlement. It's kind of very intense because they're trying to police those areas, and especially with like tuberculosis, certain diseases that we don't have to be incredibly mindful of over here, spread in contact and stuff like that. So it was very interesting for me to observe that, because there was suddenly a lot of aid, or a lot more, right, comparatively. And so it's kind of like, where were these systems when, these epidemics, right, were like raging rampant. And so, yeah, it really showed what was going on with the structure, but in the positive light, it really did, in terms of like disproportionately like affecting Black and brown people, and the colored community as well. Showing how the community really came together to support one another was something that was incredibly heartwarming as well. And also data rates are like extremely expensive. And so it's online access in regards to education and stuff. And then you also have load shedding, where the government shuts down the power depending on what district you are for like a few hours a day, sometimes maybe even like weeks. Places like the Congo, like my friend who I went to school with, like when we were freshmen, he was still... my good friend Max, here, like he was still studying in Stellenbosch with me. But then he was in the Congo when he got stuck because he was on the way to Japan. But he was staying with his family, his grandmother. And like we didn't really know when we'd hear from him because they'd shut down like you know, like either the grid would be down or the government was manually doing it, and so, or somebody's like stealing copper from power lines or something like that. So it was very interesting trying to maintain that global network I had while also like trying to figure out how to survive and be mindful. And so, and as like a creature of like socialization, I think it was very interesting because just being like confined, like I don't think I, aside from the basic thing of like needing to turn in like an archaeology practical paper online, and you know our libraries we can't really access and stuff like that. Other than those basic, you know, like university stressors, like I'm not trying to downplay it. Like it wasn't easy for like anybody, but comparatively, like I think I was okay. So South Africa was very interesting, and I couldn't train then. And then I went back to New York. I was going between South Africa and New York because I was trying to, you know, like fly my dog back over. And so, yeah, I got a puppy when I was doing my honors degree. And so it was back and forth trying to, you know, like it's a lot of tests that have to be done. There's like a certain window for like immigration. I was between New York City and South Africa, so like Cape Town, Western Cape. And so I was going back and forth, and a Taekwondo practice like opened on like 9th Avenue. And so it was like right down the street from where I lived. So I went over there. It was like brand new and WT. And so I was able to, you know, like get brushed up on the curriculum and stuff like that. And by the time that I realized the best thing for me as a creative and in terms of like my young adult life and, you know, community and stuff like that was to not be in New York City at the time, but to go back down to North Carolina. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, here's another transition. It's normal for me, but I'm like, here we go. And came back down, and then I rejoined the original place I started Taekwondo at. Okay. And then at that point, when I was in South Africa, I was doing different martial arts because even when I was in Cape Town, it was still mainly ITF from what I could find, those associated with the universities, which again, just made it tricky for me. But I started taking up different things like MMA. I was like, okay, I want to still stay in striking. I'm not that much of a grappler. It never really fascinated me. Some of my cousins are pro, but like it just hadn't. Grappling never really caught the bug, and I think it was just I'm just a stand-up striking girl, honestly. And so what made sense, it was like Muay Thai. It seemed like a very interesting transition because with the agility and dexterity that comes with Taekwondo and precision that comes with Taekwondo and athleticism, I wanted something to also enhance that in terms of like power. And so like Muay Thai like sounded like the natural thing to add on. I cross-train now, and so Muay Thai has like never left like my fascination. I did some Muay Thai in South Africa, in New York City, and then now we just opened our own like Muay Thai gym, and it's 5 minutes from Crabtree Valley Mall. It's called Jaisu Muay Thai Academy, and I followed my head coach out, and I help with the marketing and stuff over there. And it's just such a lovely community. I think we're incredibly blessed with how things have like grown. Mm-hmm. And people are inspired and kind of empowered through their own bodies and their own progress. I think there's, you know, nothing more valuable to see happen within the community. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And then I'm back on, like we spoke like briefly, like getting my schedule back together. So my competition schedule on top of, you know, blending that with the creative element inside of things, which is how we've gotten connected. And so for me, martial arts and media, essentially, that's my life. That's something that, I mean, it's in my name, and it's something that I recognize as my life path. And if I can continue leading on being a creative and a martial artist, and being able to give back to the community that, you know, like photographers, like, you know, like Taylor and Gemma, bigger photographers in like the DC area or New York City area, just, you know, being able to inspire and support like other women and also like women of color. That's something that I just love to continue doing for my whole life, regardless of whether that means like I shelve myself off to try to go full contact in a certain amount of time, or I work on films or productions or, you know, like festivals. I'm still very open, so we'll see.
Good stuff. So with the martial arts,
yes.
Like what inspired you to get started with that?
So it's actually not a sob story. Not that it has to be. Like, I think people are drawn to martial arts as they are to different things for different reasons. For me, it was very, like, logical and random. And not necessarily random, like it was my environment. Like, it was just geographically convenient because it was down the road from my school. The practice was down the road from my school. We drove past it every single day. I started middle school, and I was more so focused on like languages and, you know, culture, in school and stuff, and theater, and art. And I was like, okay, well, I have to add on a sport. Like, I played basketball when I was in California. I played volleyball. I was like, okay, what's going to be my sport? And so I was like, oh, I thought it was volleyball. Didn't get on the team. I'm 5'4", so I was like, okay, you know, soccer is fun, but, you know, the cultural climate for sports in like North Carolina, especially Raleigh, it's like, if you don't want to do this in college very seriously, or if you have like a very natural aptitude for it, it's like, okay, like, I just had to consider so many things. And like, also same thing with basketball and like, you know, lacrosse. And because the research triangle is definitely very big into sports in the universities here. And I was like, okay, let me do cross country. Let me do something that's going to challenge myself. My friend was doing it. I was like, let me do it too. I never thought of myself like as like a runner, a long distance runner. I could do like a 5K in half an hour at that point. But I was like, I'm not long distance. But like, let's see, my parents run marathons, right? Like, I've got the gene. And then we were preparing for the first meet, and we were playing wolves and deer, which is like tag. And I got tripped, and I fell on my head, and I got a concussion. So I was out the whole season.
Dang.
Except the last meet. And then I was like, okay, cool. Maybe school sports aren't my thing. Yeah. You know, and I thought, I was like, that's going to be the route I go down. Something's going to speak to me. And then I was like, And then there was a summer camp down the road at Lee Brothers Taekwondo, like Lee Brothers Martial Arts Raleigh. And I went, and then I just had a lot of fun. I had like a lot of fun. Like, I was 12. Like, I'm not like as introspective. Like, you're like, my critical eye hadn't completely developed at that point, but like it was like, I'm having a lot of fun. There's something to work towards, and I think those two things on top of the community aspect and the family aspect really drew me in, because life and how much I've moved had really shown me that, you know, things change, and that's okay. Like, I encourage change, like I'm okay with change, but like, what can I work towards consistently? And the belt system was something that helped me a lot, because I'm somebody that liked achievement. But I had to be okay and incredibly resilient when things didn't really go as planned. Or it's like, oh, okay, cool, you just solidified friend group, or you really like this, or, you know, maybe in 2 years' time, like there's this production, up, time to move. And I'm incredibly grateful for all of my experiences that have come with just, you know, being able to see the world. But like, growing up, it's definitely, there's a weight to it. And so with Taekwondo and martial arts, I was like, okay, cool, it's a meritocracy. Like, it's a true meritocracy, because like, growing up in the US and like, you know, like capitalism and the way everything's structured, there's this illusion that if you work hard and you achieve said thing, you're guaranteed such result, right? Like, if you go and you get all A's, you go to the best schools, you get into the best schools, you get the best job, X, Y, and Z. It's of course not as shallow as that, but, you know, even if you did those things, there's still no guarantee that you're even able to achieve the next thing. And also, people grow and learn and change, and their value systems change, and, you know, what they're interested in growing up, like, changes too. And so like, that may not even be the system you're meant to be navigating. And so with like Taekwondo, I was like, okay, cool, it takes this amount of time, right? Like, minimum, right, to get to the next rank. If I learn these things, I will be able to get to the next level. And the only thing that would be holding me back would be myself, in essence. And of course, there are other things at play, like, who knows, like, there's a hurricane or like whatever external factors. But for me, I was like, okay, cool, if I do this, I will be able to achieve said thing. And I think that provided me comfort. And in hindsight, when I was writing like my black belt essays and stuff, I was like, okay, yeah, this has been the consistent thread for me in a very unstatic world. And family changes, friends change, countries change, schools change, your interest in like what I went in thinking that I wanted to study like wasn't necessarily where I ended up. And even if I wanted to study said thing, the program looks completely different. And on top of that, like I only have foreign qualifications from high school. So like coming back to the US, I'm always going to be seen as an alien. And so like that's also okay because I never really cared to fit in particularly. And so now I'm like, that's okay. But on the contrast of that, right, is that there was no like, I didn't have any mainstream rites of passage for me, right? Like there was no prom, there was no like cap and gown graduation. Even though some of the things that I did were like kind of cooler, but
does that bother you at all? Any of that?
In the moment it didn't, and now I'm still okay with it because I'm like, would I have preferred it to be any other way? Like, no. Genuinely, because if it had been, I wouldn't be who I was today. And I do genuinely love the space that I'm in and the people I've been able to meet and the things I'm able to do.
It's fine because I don't.
And sometimes
I don't think
people
about
don't
it.
even
I don't
remember
think.
it.
Yeah, I don't think about it.
Like maybe it's just something that like stands out in my brain because I did not have, right? So it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah. None of my friends, we don't get together and say, hey, you remember the prom? And
then like, what if I had the worst prom ever, right? Right,
yeah. I think you had a cooler experience. Like,
okay.
I can't imagine just being able to travel like that. And that's, I don't think I could do that though.
Yeah? Are you like a homebody or like what?
No, I could travel, but not alone. Like
Gotcha.
you said at 16 or
yeah. At a certain point, I was
way.
flying. My dad went over with me like the first time I flew over, and then going back and forth because we have like the Christmas breaks and whatever. Like I'm flying back to New York. Once I remember it must have been 2016 or 2017. It was 2016. It was the winter of 2016, and like I board the plane, right, and all good. And no, we're about to board the plane. I was not on the plane, and then all of a sudden the pilot went on strike.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, I'm trying to go home. Like,
it's
like Christmas break, like on top of everything else. And we were like, and so we all get like shuttled to these hotels. And at the time I was like talking to my mom and she's trying to figure out what's going on. She's calling the airline. She's like, what hotel are you on? She's calling the hotel. And if it weren't, again, for the community, like it takes a village to raise a child, but even more so, like even as an adult or a young adult, you're still very much engrossed in the energy that like everybody else is in too. Right. And so like if you're around, good people or proactive people, like it does assist. And so like there were a few adults that were like, what's going on, that like looked after me, and like we'd just be talking about, I'm like, I'm gonna apply to college in 2 years, and I think her name was Leah. Was like talking and like through like, okay, well there's this program and this and this and this, and so it kept me like steady amongst like, we were like, we don't know what's going on. Is this political? Like, are we gonna get another flight? And then like we're kept in this hotel for like 2 days with no real information in London. And so, and I'm like, what do I even do? You know what I mean? Because if it's a matter of just, and everybody's trying to get other flights and like different airlines and stuff, and they're not really. And it sounded like it was just the pilots all like were striking against like wage stuff, which like makes sense. But in hindsight, because I didn't really feel like I was in danger, but I was like, what do I do? Yeah. And like those are one of the experiences like as a 16-year-old, you're kind of like, like it could have been way worse, but still I'm like, okay, yeah, this isn't like the normal thing that a lot of other people have to go through.
I'd have freaked out. I'd freak out now as a grown man. Like, I couldn't imagine being like 16. Like,
yeah, but the thing is, like, I love traveling with friends too, because everybody has a different kind of like way of navigating the world, and so I love going with like my friends that are very like sometimes introverted, because like sometimes you have to slow down, and I see things that I normally don't see, and I love going out with my like very like energetic like zesty friends because it's like. I wouldn't have gotten that experience either. And so, like, for me, and also, like, having to, grow up relatively quickly because of the experiences I've had, I've kind of go into, like, survival, like, mode. Like, me in an airport is, like, I find the gate, okay, cool. now I can think about food and water and like everything else. And like, let me get on the plane, get here, get out, like very kind of like efficient. Don't really want to like loiter around. But at the same time, like, I lost, I think, the fun it would have been to just kind of like explore on my own, because I've been so like, make sure you're not that person. Make sure you're not going to be that statistic. So, yeah.
My first flight was, I think I was like 35.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So
where'd you go?
I went to Dallas.
Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it like for work or what?
Yeah, for work.
Okay.
I was terrified too.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you just, you don't like being in the air?
No. Well, yeah, just the whole idea of flying.
Okay.
I always wanted to, and I planned trips with friends, but you know how they get sometimes. Like, so
yeah.
My first work was my first trip.
Okay.
But I stayed my flight was, I think at like 7 in the morning or something in Raleigh. I stayed up all night. I stayed up all night watching YouTube videos.
Right, about
like,
how to get on the plane,
yeah,
what to do in the airport.
Yeah.
But it's not really intuitive. And that's why I always feel like this like drastic amount of empathy for like families that well one, if they don't speak English predominantly, right? And then two, if they're like elderly or if they're just not familiar with the system, it's not intuitive. It's intuitive to me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I actually already know where, you know, the whatever pre-check line is, right? But I'm like, if these people are flying for the first time, you show up to the airport, genuinely, what do you do? Yeah. Like, if you don't know, you have to go to the kiosk, and then security's in a different point of like every airport. Yeah. I just got back from Seoul, and I was like, is this line supposed to be here? Am I even in the right line? Like, I was like, and like then like all my nerves were up because I was like, it's already about to be like a 20-hour journey. So I can only imagine, and then also being foreign and having to go through like TSA and stuff like that, where they're naturally supposed to be performatively like way more aggressive, and so it's like it's an emotional experience. Like airports are emotional experiences.
Yeah. I will say though, it was this nice black lady, old black lady. I walked in, and I guess she just looked at my face, and she was like, come here. She's like, you need help, don't you? I was like, yeah. And she told me everything to do, and like it was smooth. I overreacted.
Yeah.
Like,
what's your funniest like airport story?
I don't have one yet.
Okay.
Everything's been pretty smooth. Like from there, I've been to I went to Houston.
Okay.
I've been to Puerto Rico, Atlanta. That's like a nothing flight. And Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you've done the international thing too. So okay, that's
went out
pretty
there
cool.
for a wedding.
Okay, that's fun.
But I'm trying to travel more this year.
That's good.
Last year I didn't do anything.
Last
year
out
was
in
just
the air
work.
and it chow. Yeah, it'll circle around. Are you more of like, you prefer driving places?
No. Well,
No.
if it's more than like 4 hours,
then you like to.
That's my cap.
Fly.
Yeah,
do you like
fly.
trains?
I've never been on a plane. I mean, a train.
I love a train.
I want to experience. I was gonna. So this last summer, I was planning on just going somewhere close, maybe like Charlotte or something. Just me and my daughter. I didn't get to do it, but I want to schedule out some time to just take a train ride.
I took the train from Raleigh Union to Charlotte, and it was pretty seamless. It's I think like the best of both worlds. You're on the ground, which makes you feel like you can get off at any time. Yeah. And especially if you're like me and you're in like a new place, or if I'm taking a new subway line. When I was like in Seoul anyway, right? Like I always end up going the opposite direction. I don't know what, but I always end up going the opposite, and then I have to get off and then like get on the next one. But like it's nice just to feel grounded. And then also trains, you can walk around.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and there was like Wi-Fi on the one I was on, so I was like, okay, cool. And it wasn't incredibly packed, so I was like, okay, cool. I was very mellow like the whole time, and opposed to flying, I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, if I sleep, you know, and
I can't really sleep on planes. Like
I developed. I'm not much of a sleep talker, but like I definitely developed like a twitch instinct, and once like I caught like one of my hands flying, and so I was like, yeah, this is not good for anybody. So like I prefer window seats, so that way I can like whatever. Or if I like doze, like I don't want to feel like I'm falling down and then I jerk up, and I was like, I probably look like the Mad Hatter. So I was like,
what's your advice? So, like, if somebody has to take an incredibly long flight,
stay up.
what do you do?
Stay up. I only slept for like 2 hours before I left for Seoul. That was like a 17-hour plane ride. 2 hours, and especially if it's like an overnight leaving, like red eye situation, try to make yourself exhausted so you're kind of forced to sleep on the plane. But if you know you're gonna be like anxious and like you're not even gonna get like any REM or whatever, you're not gonna fall into a deep sleep, then like maybe get your rest before. Definitely stretch. I don't do that enough. I don't leave my seat. I like
I don't either.
Yeah, because I'm like I
had to use the bathroom really bad on one flight, and I held it the whole time.
That's
I just
wild.
didn't want to get up and like.
But like only like a 17-hour, like anything like 8, like around that, it's like But and like get up, stretch, like move around. But I also just like don't want to inconvenience other people too, you know. Yeah. And so like once I like forgot that I put my laptop in my bag that I had put in the thing, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna have to go without. Yeah, or like my like headphones, but I forgot the aux jack and the other thing. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to suffer.
I'm like that too.
Instead of being more.
Yeah, I'm like that too. But like, I'll wait till I see somebody else do it, and then I'll jump up. Okay. So I'm like, I'm not the only person.
Yeah, you know? It's like okay, now it's the time. It's the communal time. Yeah. How do you feel about like clapping on planes when it?
Clapping
on planes when it arrives.
I just looked around. I didn't know that was a thing. So when it happened, I'm like, what's going on?
Somebody's birthday. Yeah, I think it's like I have mixed feelings about it because one, I'm like, what are we doing? And then two, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Well, they
made
it,
and you know the pilot and the technology didn't give out on us specifically. It's a bit morbid.
That's been happening a lot lately.
It has been, yeah. So, what was it, like a JetBlue flight like last week?
I don't remember who it was. I don't know what companies, but I've seen it was like 4 of them across the world. Like.
So I don't know if it's weather, if it's like grid system, or who knows what. This is about to turn into a conspiracy.
It's AI.
But it's AI.
Taking us out.
It's AI.
Yeah, it's AI.
It started as counteroffensive. Yeah. ChatGPT got all of our data. Yeah. It's that article that it's observing more. I'm like, of course it's observing more. Right. But is it helping me? Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah, like with like schedules and like automating certain processes. Yeah, like it's helping me. So I'm like,
Yeah, nobody's paying attention.
Nobody's paying attention.
It worries me a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because, like, so I'm a little older. So, like, when I was a kid, I grew up in the 80s. Yeah. So, like, all the movies that were out then that were, like, sci-fi. Yeah. And just, this is just...
When did Contact come out? The 80s, 90s?
I don't know. I don't know. But, like, I'm thinking, like, Total Recall, Terminator. Like, all these.
Yeah, the bionic.
Yeah. These were, like... The language that they were using in these movies is just like, what are you talking about? But like now
it's here.
That is here. Like everything they're talking about there is like here. It's like it's kind of scary.
And biotech
none of those movies end well. You know
never.
So it's like
this is never the we're optimistic at the end. Maybe it's not. The Tesla robots. How do you feel?
Because I think that's fake. I don't believe it.
You don't believe it?
No.
So
I don't believe we'll ever see them
like household entity.
Right. I just don't.
Okay.
Maybe, but
I think maybe, but I would not be a fan of it personally. But it was interesting because my friends are like, so like, what would the pricing be, right? Like if it's
I heard it like 30 grand. I heard it like 30 grand.
Yeah, that's like cheap, like a car, right?
That's like rich people,
right? Right. But it's like. But if there's a payment system and whatever, and like, it's like kind of having a second car or whatever, then it's like, okay, and it does your dish, like stuff like that. So I was like, do we timeshare one? Like, what's going to be the ethics surrounding? But then it's like, it's technology. It will malfunction. It's made by humans. It's designed by humans. It will be fallible. So it's like in the same way that humans are. And so it's just like, what if it gets an attitude and locks me out of my house? Like,
right.
Like what?
That's the big
what
risk.
What do we do?
Is everybody saying like if the stuff becomes self-aware, like then what happens?
And like, is self-awareness, does that even look the same way to a robot that it would be to us in terms of like learning behavior? Because like it's ones and zeros. You have to program it how to think, and you have to program it to think around what would be empathetic, or in this case probably helpful if it's supposed to be within the service sector, right? Or to anticipate somebody's needs depending on whatever else is going on, right. Or just to purely be programmed to do said task. But even then, like, it's so complicated because I can only imagine that a learning system will one, either literally tweak out and then like bust a gasket and then like,
that happened.
Yeah, catch on fire.
It was a Amazon robot.
Yeah.
And it just like it was doing tasks all day.
Yeah.
It just like started going crazy.
Yeah, and it's like that too.
They're like,
just
so what do you think humans
overload.
are feeling like doing these type of jobs?
Yeah, and it's like also, what about people that have heavily relied on doing these kinds of jobs? It's like, is there going to be a system proactively? We see it in the AI and art world all the time. Is there going
to replace people?
Yeah,
these companies don't.
And it's just copy and like splicing and dicing and fusing work that artists aren't even getting credit for or money for. And so now it's being optimized in the businesses, and the way businesses work, they're not even cognizant of this because like their tasks are so stratified that, you know, they don't have to consider what a working artist has to go through. Right. Is that a separate issue? Yes, but like with technology, like for people working in the cleaning businesses or this, is there going to be some sort of interim or program, you know, to help people fuse into? We need to have a dialogue surrounding that transition, because humans, we are anxious, we are all animals, and so like when it comes into seeing something replacing something else, even if it is working to help people in the day-to-day, it's definitely only working to help a select few. And is we can get into mineral extraction, like all of that other stuff, and like that is going into these parts, and then on top of that, it's replacing people that have working jobs. Like we need to have more dialogue surrounding this, so that way people that, you know, enforce and make policy know how to accommodate for these things. Like I think that's the happy medium. But I saw the funniest reel. It was like it was a TikTok, and what was the Beyonce song? It was like No One, the da 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 da, and it was like me replacing me switching seats with my Tesla robot when I get pulled over.
Yeah. They had a bunch of those that was going through. Like,
I think that's the funniest thing. But like,
you see the guy that got stuck in it was one of the automated taxis.
Oh no.
Yeah, it went viral.
Like
he was just driving around in a circle, and like he called customer service.
Get out.
Like, and they're like,
it's not funny, but like,
and the lady like really didn't know what to tell him.
Right.
She was like, did you reset your app? No, he's like, yes. It's just driving around the parking lot in a circle.
Did anyone how'd they get him out? Did they like stop it?
It ends, so you don't really know.
Ran out of electricity,
like,
or
what
happened?
Yeah.
Right. I'd honestly miss having like, if that is completely streamlined, like, you know, taxi drivers. I've had like really good insight into like local and like working culture through just talking to like taxi drivers. Like I was driving back, I just got back from New York City. And the interesting thing, so if we're talking about my name, right? So my name is like French. So sage in French means like wise. So sagesse is wisdom. And so whenever I get into a car, even in South Africa, this was a thing. People would always ask me if I was French just based on my name. And I was like, no. And so the first few times I got that, I was just like, niche content, right? I was like, I don't know where this is coming from. But then I realized a lot of taxi drivers, they speak like a lot of languages, like the ones that I've encountered, right? And so like in South Africa, so if you're coming from, you know, like the Congo, you speak French, right? And so we'd have a lot of Congolese like drivers in South Africa, and that would just be a natural like conversation point, and I'd be like, oh no, I'm not, and they're like, but do you know where that comes from? And so I'd learn a lot of etymology and, you know, like history just based upon that. But I was driving back from New York City, and same question was asked. Or I was driving to the airport. I was driving to JFK, or I was riding to JFK, and I had just left like my cousin's place in Brooklyn. And conversation started, and I was like, and I was like, sagesse is wisdom. I'm like, haha, I'm prepared for this moment. And then we started talking about like Arabic, and like I speak Mandarin like fluently. And
I was gonna ask you if you're bilingual.
Yeah. So that, and then I think I'm more receptive when it comes to Creole, because like my mom's side of the family, they're Belizean, and so been exposed to like different languages, and so it's interesting. I'm not that great with Romance languages like Spanish, French. It's just verb conjugations. I just can't. For some reason, great with vocabulary, but the second it gets to grammar, I'm not the person. But Mandarin, it was very pictorial, and so I know it's definitely one of the more complicated languages to learn, but it just stuck with me. And again, like it was the hard work, turnout, and having like really dedicated teachers that really helped me like through that. But we were speaking about Arabic, and like I really was interested in how like tonal shifts and stuff like that, because in Mandarin there's something very similar where you have tones and it could be spelled the same exact way, but depending on the tone, different word, different meaning. And so then we started talking about, so my favorite poet is Khalil Gibran, and The Prophet is a book I was exposed to it in college. A friend had it, and I was flipping through it, and then I was like, I identify with this. Like, there's so much like truth to this, to this book, this poem. And so we started speaking about that, and then it was just very interesting seeing how like reoccurring themes that come up or things that I think are interesting come up in conversation, and then of course everything going on in the Middle East, and so just being able to flesh through all that stuff. And so that's something we'd miss if the Tesla robot, unless they're programmed to tell you the news, right?
Yeah, I guess. Can you say something in Mandarin?
Okay, so 我叫宝道贤，宝道贤是我的中文的名字，我的英文的名字是 Sage Battle，我是25岁，我做Taekwondo，我很喜欢武术，也不同类的martial arts，yeah. So I said,
what did you just say?
Yeah, I said my name is Bao Dao Xian. So Bao Dao Xian is my Chinese name. My teacher gave me that name when I was younger, when I was like 13. And my English name is Sage. I do Taekwondo, and I like different kinds of martial arts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a question about when you were talking about the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So like, you were where when that started? Africa, right?
I was in South Africa. So
okay.
the craziest thing is I got I think COVID before the pandemic.
You said what?
I think I got COVID before the pandemic.
Me too. I think I did too. Like I was working part-time at Best Buy. This was like in January of 2019. Late December, like basically throughout the Christmas break. Mm-hmm. Like 60% of the store got crazy sick. People were just but it was like, oh, we got the flu. Like,
but it was
and then
insane,
3 months
though.
later we see like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm pretty sure I had COVID.
It already passed through, yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, like, when it initially happened, like, we thought, everybody pretty much thought the world was over. Mm-hmm. So, like, were you afraid that you weren't going to be able to come back home?
Well, I couldn't. So I was in the process of trying to figure things out. Like, I was a full degree student. We had American exchange students at that time. They got extracted. Like, the embassy, their visas, whatever they had to go back. And I was like, is that me too? Like, it's not just like we're canceling your study abroad. Like, my whole degree is here and this is my final year. And there was a window of when I probably could have gone back because the flight stuff hadn't.
Yeah.
And then I was just very confused for a long time because I was like, I don't know. Is this a space, like, how should I be assertive about, like, what do I do? And then the embassy closed, so, like, it was just the military picking up the phone. And so I was like, okay, what do I do? And, like, of course, like, I have, like, family friends and stuff in South Africa, so I didn't feel like I was completely alone. In terms of, like, I think that's something that definitely really helped me. It wasn't like I'm in this foreign country and I don't know anybody or anything. And I was struggling with, like, health stuff. Like, I think I was passing kidney stones or something at that time. So I was like, that on top of the stress. So it's just very much, there was a lot going on. And then a month or two passed and I would get flights and then they'd be canceled. So the airway that I went was South Africa through Amsterdam to JFK or LaGuardia, depending on wherever I was taking out of, through Delta. And all that stuff just, like, got canceled. And, like, sure, maybe I could have gone, like flown in through, like, fly SAF Air into, like, Johannesburg and then, gone into Angola and then gotten another flight into, like, Ethiopia that goes through, like, France that goes through, like, Colorado through. Yeah. But that was too much. It was too high risk considering the fact that we were in a pandemic too, because of course the vaccine cards, vaccines weren't even a thing at that point. And so documentation and all of the horror stories of people, like, suddenly, like, showing up to the airport and then they have to figure all of these logistics out, or because you're in the air and then also time differences, it's like what counts as or people landing, and as they land they have to start enforcing new policies. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And I was traveling alone as how old was I? I was 20 in 2020. I was 20 when the pandemic started. I turned 21 that August, and so I was just like, and I was like, so I just spent a lot of time on Discord and playing games with my friends and reading and doing Chloe Ting workouts and Animal Crossing helped me, so I couldn't go back. Yeah. And then when things started to open up around, I went back in October. It was September or October when my aunt had passed. So I was like, okay, so even if I need like a whatever documented whatever to be able to like pass through, because there were different rules in different countries and stuff. Like I have this reason to, and especially my degree program wasn't over yet. Mm-hmm. I was waking up at the beginning of my honors degree. So that was another thing. I was applying to do my honors in anthropology, which I ended up going to a different university for. And I was doing classes at like 3:00 in the morning mm-hmm. because sometimes having pre-recorded things didn't work, or if I was working with older lecturers and, like everybody has to adjust the technological realm, things would be available. So I was like waking up in New York, taking classes at 3, 4, 5:00 in the morning, having to adjust. And so like it was a very chaotic time, even when I did get back. Mm-hmm. But things in New York seemed to have kind of settled down. In South Africa, things had opened up around that point too. Like I was enjoying like Cape Town, and because we were allowed to go on the beach and the weather's phenomenal that time of year, right? So I was like going to the beach, surfing, being able to just be amongst like a pod of people. And
that's cool.
So like I was able to be like in the earth. So like like around and, being able to go for runs and stuff. I was able to do those kinds of things. Stores had begun to open, still social distancing. But it was just it was like a hard shutdown. You can't.
That was a wild time. It doesn't seem like it was 5 years ago now.
It doesn't. Crazy, right? It really doesn't. Like, okay. I think 2 years are like taken out. I think we're all allowed to subtract 2 years from our age.
So going back to like the entrepreneurial side of things, that's you're full time at what you do now, or do you work anywhere?
I'm definitely modular. So I do a lot of remote work. So whether it's like logo design or photography, like through my business, I write pieces for Three Chambers Fest on occasion, like doing like either like festival coverage or interviewing some like the artists that like we have the luxury to work with. So that's, like a source of income for me. Another one, like doing marketing at like Jaisu Muay Thai. So that's something that like heavily, like I'm either there training or doing desk work or both.
Do you train people?
Sometimes I do basic striking. Okay. Like I taught kids when I was at a different fight gym, okay. Formerly. And then now I'm trying to look at like what certifications and things I would need to do more like women's classes, and so that's something we're trying to launch in the next like month or two. Cool. And so that's something I'm incredibly passionate about because I just like it when people feel like when people have that final like that spark, like that realization that they're able to do things for themselves through themselves. Like I just love seeing that on the daily. And so there's that. And so that's the business is mainly like media, merch, photography, graphic design, marketing, and of course going through systems of running ads, dealing with the algorithm and the algorithmic changes and everything else that's going on.
So before we get out of here, let me ask you, yes. Tell us like some of your hobbies, things that you're into that's not business related. In your case, it would have to be, you can't say like, oh, I like fighting, like
right.
It has to be like outside of that realm.
I think I really enjoy, and it can't be like photography either, right? I'm trying to learn how to DJ this year. I'm trying to do more with music and like curating. I love curating. I love like making playlists. I like making dedicated playlists. I like, for like martial arts demos and stuff. But I mentioned martial arts, but music and the storytelling behind it. I think eventually I want to get my PhD in ethnomusicology, and so I kind of want to start learning the technological aspects of it. And I'm kind of proud of myself because I normally start thinking about that after. Like I think is like technology, like those are tools. That's just what assists you to create said thing. But I think like the more knowledge you have about like intricate systems and audio in the sensory world. It's like it's just an additional language that helps you communicate a more thorough picture. And yeah, definitely that. Like I love like Bella Sosowski, and like more intricate like FKA Twigs, like people that like blend the art world and like live music and 3D like animation and stuff, because I thought like growing up like, oh, you have to be a specific kind of person, you only do visuals, right? Like, or you only do photography or like stills, and like that's the visual realm, and even then that means film. But like, oh, you don't do sound or like whatever, and you can be specialist, but I'm like, for me, I'm very eclectic, and so I'm learning I want to do that. So definitely learning how to DJ. I think I need to go into like a Pilates class. I want to do like different kinds of dance classes. Like I did contemporary in school, but I'm like, I probably want to pop back into dance, maybe a little theater. But yeah, just trying to do more things that are going to enhance me moving through the world as a creative, as a martial artist. It's, martial artist and martial arts like actress, like just trying to see what that looks like, and like exploring the cinematics behind it and the psychology behind framing. And so, yeah.
What's the last film that you've seen?
Last movie? Like in full?
Yeah.
In the theater? In the theater, it was Mufasa.
How was that? I heard it was trash.
You heard it was trash?
I heard it was trash.
Okay, so I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. The animation the beginning is always jarring for me with like animals and talking. The beginning of anything is always jarring. But I thought it was quite good. I thought the story was like well done. I can never disconnect Beyonce's voice from Beyonce. And I'm like Beyonce's a lion. Like that was like one of the first things that like came up. But other than that, I was good. I think the story behind it, the message was like very sweet. And then I just got like my critique of like, like Disney.
Mufasa's the real villain.
Mufasa, it depends on how you look at it. Was Mufasa the real villain for being Valorant, or was the real villain behind it like insecurity that was like passed down through generations from needing?
Well, I haven't seen it, but there was a topic. So there was like a couple of years ago, people were like making theories saying that Scar was the original. You know what I'm saying?
Because there was a book.
He's even an older.
Book.
Yeah. So like, even before the movie came out, he's the older brother, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, if you're the older brother, you should be king. So it's like,
well, it was
like
wrong? Two different like lion tribe type of things.
I think that was something that wasn't really discussed like into the. Maybe they did that for the movie.
Yeah, I don't know what's canon, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know canon, like he's the older brother, so
yeah.
Regardless if they're not really brothers, just off how things work.
Yeah.
He should be the king.
The hierarchy.
Yeah, so it's like, is he wrong for, being
the story,
mad?
like the movie was like something towards the end of the movie kind of like defined it, and then it was kind of like a character flaw thing, and then even then he spared him, but like.
Yeah, I'll check it out when it hits Disney Plus. But my daughter, we had an option between that and Sonic.
And so, do you want to see Sonic?
Yeah, Sonic's fire.
Sonic's good? Yeah. Wait, is this the one where originally the animation clip came out like 4 years ago or something?
Like
everybody was like, take that down. Yeah. Like everybody was like,
and they changed it, which never really happened.
Immediately, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, he looked scary.
Like, he looked scary and scared, and like. Is this a horror movie? There was a lot going on with that. I saw that and I was like, ooh. Yeah.
That was like the last movie I saw before the pandemic hit. It came out like in early March, I believe.
Yeah, and the pandemic pushed so much back. You know what's interesting that I have my eye on? It's the Odyssey. It's what Christopher Nolan is directing. So it's the Homer the Odyssey, that book that everybody had to read in middle school. So Christopher Nolan's adapting it. Both Zendaya and Tom Holland are in it from what last I saw, like in the casting thing. And I thought it was interesting that I'm seeing that, and they just got engaged. So I was like, it's all planned, right? But
I think so.
That, and then Robert Pattinson's in it again, and so Christopher Nolan's. I mean, we know Christopher Nolan from the Batmans, and then Robert Pattinson was just Batman. So it's like that.
Have you seen The Penguin?
The Penguin? I haven't. Is it good?
Yes.
That's the one that's on streaming, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Max, HBO.
That's
Max.
on Max.
Yeah,
Okay, I will check it out. The last I saw from that, like DC Universe, because I was a big like Jessica Jones, like Luke Cage, which
Netflix.
was something. Netflix, Daredevil. I
Daredevil's fire.
adored Daredevil.
Yeah, I can see
I
that.
adored it. For me, I think I was particularly connected to Luke Cage, and I felt like they could have done so much more. Mahershala Ali, I think, had a phenomenal performance in that. But all that, and then was it the Penguin? It's the one that had Jada Pinkett Smith in it.
No, that's Gotham. Ago. That's Gotham.
Gotham. That's what it was. That's
the Penguin is from Twilight guy. You just said his name.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, that Batman.
Batman.
It's Colin Farrell.
Okay, so they're
with the fat suit on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has. So they did a miniseries.
Okay.
That's the Penguin.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely need to check that out. I need to see the second Joker just to see if my theory proves evident.
That's on streaming now. That's on Max.
And you've seen it?
No, I can't.
You
can't bring myself to. I'm gonna watch it.
Did you see the first one?
Yes, great.
Yeah.
But the director came out of his own mouth and said that basically he wanted to sabotage that movie.
What? Okay.
He didn't want the.
Right.
So we weren't supposed to like.
To like the first one.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to like him.
That makes me feel
better.
So
he trashed the second one.
Well, that makes me like that's the stance that honestly. So that came out when I was in South Africa. I saw that movie and I remember going back into anthropology and like they were just trying to like get like tasters and like what opinion and stuff surrounding that was, and I was like, I felt uncomfortable liking that movie.
It's a movie.
It's a movie, but it's like, I can't be separated from like the politics of anything, right? Like this is just my bane, right? And so or my Achilles heel, and like I was like, yeah, cool. We're all honoring this like guy that is like hurting everybody around, like terrorizing around, and like, yeah, sure, he's tortured soul.
You got what you deserve.
But like, yeah, and I was like, this is a beautiful movie, but then it was just kind of the pop culture reaction to like adopting the Joker as this anti-hero figure and still heavily empathizing with like I don't know.
Let's be fair.
It's complicated.
Let's be fair. That wasn't the Joker.
That wasn't the Joker.
That's not.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean that's not the joke. That's not Batman's arch nemesis.
Right.
That is not him.
And especially
they should have just made that movie its own thing. Yeah, not the Joker.
I think it's kind of was supposed to be like just like its own like little.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, I'm saying not even.
Joaquin Phoenix phenomenal performance as
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
like, I was
great
like,
performance.
That's
not the Joker. Though.
It's just not the villain. That's not Batman's villain.
But I think that's what happens in the end in the second one. I think they kind of go towards that route.
I don't think the take on the Riddler was very interesting too.
Yeah, that wasn't the Riddler, but it works. It works though, but it's not the Riddler.
I mean, even because my dad is a major sci-fi buff. Like I grew up being in this comic book universe because of my dad and like action, everything. I was a baby watching Star Trek, I was very like well engrossed in this world, and so like there's certain things that even if I haven't read the whole comic book series or like kept up with the entire MCU or like DC Universe or like Capcom, like everything spin-off, right? Like I'm able to recognize certain things. I was watching that movie being like, who is this gonna be? Like I couldn't put my finger on anything, but then I was like, oh, so this is the Riddler, because I was like, this is gonna be the Scarecrow. Maybe I wasn't paying attention or something. Maybe I was having an off day, but I was like, this is about to be the Scarecrow, and it just was not.
Yeah.
I was like, even when they were like, this is the Riddler, I'm like, it's about to be the Scarecrow.
So I got one last question for you.
Yes.
Have you ever had to use your combat skills in real life?
Not as of yet. Well, I'm going to answer this question by not answering your question and answering your question. So, no. I have never gotten into a casual fight. But all of my training, I think, has really, informed my brain in being...
aware?
Yeah, hyper-aware of my surroundings sometimes. Being very... in tune with things, and so a very observant person, and gotcha. So I take in a lot of information, and I typically do that before I start asking questions. And so, like, if I'm walking into a room, I'm like, oh, okay, this is how many people are in the room. Like, there's more, like, you know, like there's taller people. This person seems a little bit too drunk, like, da 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 da. And so I navigate
You're like
that.
You already is. I need to hit his kneecaps.
Right there. It's like, oh, he's got a limp. He had surgery.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, but it's like information. It helps me navigate it because, one, I don't look for fights, but I'm ready if there is one, or at least I try to be as ready as possible. Like, this is an unforgiving world. You never know. Yeah. Somebody could be having a bad day and, like, throw, you know, like, you never know. And also just being, like, a young woman and whatever, and then, like, trying to, like, go to events. Like, I love events and stuff, and you just have to be hyper aware of, like, you know, who's in, you know, everyone's got blind spots, but it's just, that's the world we're in. And so, like, I'm looking around.
Someone's died. Yeah. One of the cameras, I think that one just got off.
Okay. We're at the...
Yeah, we're at it.
And so, like, I look around, I'm not conflict avoidant. And so, like, I'm looking around not necessarily just for me, but, like, I mean, there was a few times, like, I was out at karaoke and there'd just be this guy that was, like, heckling these two, like, women comedians that were on stage. And it was karaoke, but, like, they made it public that they were, like, comedians and whatever. And this guy was, like, following them around. And here's the thing. I'm quite, I guess, unassuming. Like, if I walk down the street, you're not going to be like, that person knows martial arts. Right. And that's fine. But I also have to be aware of that, too. And so, like, I try to also gently mediate. And so, like, this guy kept following him around and, like, went, like, literally from, like, I mean, the, you know, DJ had done, like, whatever he could, I guess, within what I think he thought he needed to do by, like, you know, trying to diffuse the situation. And then I come straight over, and I'm like, okay, so I went and I stood right between them because I'm not giving this drunk, tall, white man the opportunity to, like, do anything. And if he does, like, rather he hits me, right? Because, like, I know what to do in the situation than somebody that I know doesn't. And,
another one.
Yeah, another one. I'm just simply yapping. And so it's stuff like that, just trying to be, like, aware, like, one for myself, but also, like, for the community. And, like, it doesn't necessarily make me a superhero. It just makes me somebody that wants to be capable.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So let the people know where they can find you if they want to check out any of your content. Or
Yeah. I mainly work with Instagram, so Sageology. I think it's like a pun. It's like, because, you know, like herbology or like, you know, biology is the study of. So Sageology with an I, so SAGEIOLOGY on Instagram. That's my main tag and handles on stuff like TikTok too, which I need to do better with. And then my photography work, so Jade Jaguar Media, so Jade, Jade, jaguarmedia.com. Gotcha. So that's where my work is, my portfolios are. So my photo work and what I'm trying to do with this documentary project with this boxer that I've been following for probably like the fights in the last year, trying to see what I can do with that. And so I'm very, very excited. It's it's going to be fun.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And if you guys made it this far, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace. That's good. Good stuff.